You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks. Chris, could you fade that music down? That'd be great. That's all right. All right, folks. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome to the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know the only thing more dangerous than liberty is the lack thereof. Want to say hi to everybody out there. John Esmond, Mike Hinn, Gary Shaver, Cat Dad, Lloyd Castleton, and everybody else. As you guys come on, make sure you guys are saying hello. And also, we want to welcome everybody that's watching this in the future as well. We got a great show for you tonight. We got Summer over here. Summer, how was your week?
It was good.
Yeah, you had a good week?
Mm-hmm, so far.
All right, good.
Don't mess
Chris?
it up.
I am having a great week. I'm here
That is awesome.
with you in my presence.
Awesome. Folks, make sure you like, subscribe, do all those things. Go down in the description below. We got a bunch of links out there that can be relevant. Well, they're relevant now, but you go check those out. We see some more folks coming on. John Hopin, Augusto, Vinny War Dog. We got some new folks on there. So again, if you guys are just tuning in, make sure you say hello in the comments and we'll try to bring you up. But we have a very, very special guest tonight. I'm really excited to talk to her tonight. But we have the Patriot Barbie. So go ahead and bring her on, Summer, if you will. Lindsey,
hey guys, hi. Hey, good. I love your intro.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not. I didn't. You notice I didn't log off. I'm not sensitive. My feelings don't get hurt easy.
I was about 90% sure we were going to lose you at that point.
Yeah, well, I'm back. I thought about it.
I know you were kind of well. You had a tight schedule, and we didn't get to log on here and kind of do intros ahead of time. So this is my wife Summer. This is Summer Melton. We got Chris Rouse. He's our resident redneck and also the representative. It's important to have a representative of the LGBTQ family, so that's what we have him here for.
Appreciate it, guys. Jeez.
Well, I can't tell if Chris, are you just gay or are you actually a female?
No, I'm just talking.
I'm actually a woman.
That's what I'm curious.
No.
I'm curious.
It's the bearded lady.
Nah, I'm just a dumb West Virginia redneck. That's all.
No, we're just giving him shit. I kind of basically we had an introduction through Adam. I guess he was down there doing some training with you, and I could not believe after kind of looking you up, seeing who you were, that I hadn't come across you. Maybe during COVID I had seen you on TV because I know you had a lot going on. But I think really what we should do right now is just give you a minute to kind of introduce yourself, kind of give you a chance to talk about how you kind of got thrown into the spotlight, because your story's pretty amazing, and I'll let it go from there.
Okay, well, I am most notoriously known for being the salon owner in Oregon that opened up against lockdowns in 2020. I was probably the third American to stand up and say my business can't handle being shut down. And so I owned a 25-chair salon in Oregon. I was not political. I was not spiritual. I just kind of said, I got 3 kids. I'm the main breadwinner. I got 6 businesses. My husband and I had 6 businesses. We got to work. So I opened up against mandates, and what happened was, being unaware of how politically divisive this was, I got completely cancel cultured. I got targeted by the state of Oregon, who of course had a Democratic governor, and my whole life became global news overnight. So we ultimately lost 6 businesses, not due to the governor, but due to cancel culture, because your audience is going to love this part of the story. You guys, I don't know if you're going to play my sizzle reel, but when I became kind of this conservative voice overnight, when the George Floyd riots started, the Antifa in my town said, go burn down Glamour Salon and kick Lindsey Graham's ass. And I did a call to arms, and 400 people showed up outside my salon with guns, military, veterans, ex-military, biker gangs. And we protected all of downtown Salem from the riots.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I became, lost all my businesses, moved to Arizona, and became just a voice of freedom, and have just been following kind of God's course for that for 4 years. And it's been incredibly glorious.
Now, when you say you lost all your businesses due to the cancel culture, was that from the riots ended up taking over, or was it just because of boycotts against your business?
It was mostly boycotts against the business. So it started with like, oh, you're a murderer. You'd rather do hair and make money than save people's lives.
Right.
That was like a dose of cancel culture. I had some stylists walk out because of the controversy. And then the BLM thing was definitely the nail in the coffin. I got labeled a white supremacist and a white nationalist. I got put on a boycott list. Antifa started tracking me. We were getting death threats. And a petition was started that I was a threat to the community for expressing my Second Amendment rights.
Sure.
And 80,000 people signed it. And so all of my stylists walked out because I was now being labeled a white nationalist, and people started canceling their gym memberships. We had a huge gym in Woodburn, and then all of our tanning salons started getting negative reviews and death threats and hateful phone calls. So we ended up just, we couldn't survive in Oregon. We lost everything. So yeah.
Now, Lindsey, I'm curious. Number one, how is it sharing a name with like the worst rhino senator on the face of the planet?
Is he the worst? Is he the worst? Let me
He's
think.
not the worst.
He might not be the worst, but I might just be biased because it's my name. I'm like,
Sure.
He's amazing.
No.
It's interesting now because it didn't mean anything when I wasn't political. And I married into the name. My maiden name was not Graham, obviously. And when I became political, it was really interesting to watch like people's reactions when I would introduce myself in political circles. And they were like, they didn't know how to react. They wanted to kind of laugh at me, but then they're like, well, that's really her name. That's rude. So now it's like the best icebreaker ever. Actually, I introduce myself. I say Lindsey Graham, and I wait for the reaction. I'm like, yes, you heard me right. Like that's
And yes, that's my real name.
I'm like, I'll make jokes like tonight I identify as a woman, and I also identify as a Republican. It's kind of fun.
You're talking about how, prior to that, you weren't political. What were your politics? And then, how did you kind of evolve into, or was there, were you always exactly kind of who you are now? Or was there kind of a shift because of the blowback towards you?
Oh my gosh, that's such an amazing question, because who I am now is nothing like who I was prior to 2020.
I assumed, but
nothing. I mean, I was like, please everybody. I had nothing to say about anything, whatever about trans people, whatever about, politics. I actually had written in my Facebook bio under the politics section, I had written, gross, I don't do politics. I'm like, oh, I went and deleted that like 2 years ago. Whoopsie. So I was completely naive, not paying attention, literally voted for Obama in 2008, voted for Trump in 2016, but mostly just because, he's a good businessman. He seems like a good businessman.
Sure.
Totally not awake. And it's funny because after everything in 2020, it's like they created their own arch nemesis, right? I was opening because I was like, we have 6 businesses. We're $100,000 in debt from like rents and credit cards and mortgages. I have to open and work. And it was like the left, from what I was suddenly like, the left. Oh, the left is Democrats. The right is Republicans. The left hated me. And the Republicans were sending me support mail and letters and like checks to my GoFundMe. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. People disagree that I have a right to work, like that they disagree that I should be able to pay the bills that I've signed up to pay, like that I want to earn my own money. And so here's the best part. They took a meme. They called me a Trumpster. They called me a right-wing extremist. And I was like, I've never talked about who I voted for, but if we're going to be honest, it was Trump. I went and bought my first MAGA hat and I put it on and I took a picture. I'd been being like canceled for, 30 or 60 days. I was so sick to death of these people. I took a picture of my MAGA hat and I posted it. Well, they turned around and made a meme out of it. And the meme said, I don't always play Patriot Barbie, but when I do, I steal people's money and I kill grandmas. And I was like, did you just call me Patriot Barbie?
You're like, yes.
So I looked up the definition of Patriot, looked up the definition of Barbie, wrote it on my Facebook, and then just to be a little snot, because this is who I am, I went and changed all my social media to say Patriot Barbie. And I was like,
That's awesome.
you think it's an insult? I think it's the biggest compliment ever.
I think so too.
Yeah. So that's how I became the Patriot Barbie. And I don't know, it was like the next news interview I went on, they're like, so you're going by the Patriot Barbie. And I was like, I guess so. Yeah. So to answer your question, the Patriot Barbie became like my alter ego. And my husband would say things like, we'd go out, right? And I would not wear a mask anywhere. And I was like, it doesn't matter what they try to say. I'm not wearing a mask. And he's like, can you just leave Patriot Barbie at home? And I'm like, no. And I would have to decide, like, okay, we're trying to have a nice dinner. Do I leave Patriot Barbie at home, or do I like go full force everywhere we go? And as it turned out, like, I couldn't leave Patriot Barbie at home. It was like, no, this is a fight everywhere we go. When you cower and submit, that is the minute that you admit that there is a line that you're willing to not cross for your freedoms. And so the night that I got legit dragged on my knees out of a bar for not wearing a mask, and the police called on me, he's like, you couldn't leave Patriot Barbie at home. And I was like, I'm a Patriot Barbie. Like, that was it. Like, this is now who I am. It's over.
Yeah.
So
The more I drink, the more patriotic I get.
that's right.
That sounds like you, Gary.
The more mimosas I have, the more I beg a liberal to walk in the door and pick up.
Yeah.
You damn right.
Well,
right.
and I remember looking through your stuff too. They even canceled or GoFundMe dropped you as well, didn't they?
Yep. They stole some of my money. They went back into like donor bank accounts and gave their money back.
Wow.
So I had to go start a give, send, go. But I mean, at this point, I'm not, looking for donations for anything. I just
Sure.
I just want to fight. I don't want to fight for free.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm curious, before we move on in the story, when you say you were basically apolitical prior to all this happening, is that just because you didn't really think it affected your everyday life, and this kind of brought to light exactly how politics can affect your everyday life?
Yeah, I feel like, and I still feel that like this is true. You can't know everything about politics. And so to me, it was so overwhelming to think, well, if I even wanted to talk politics, I think I wouldn't have the time to look into everything I would need to know to have any kind of intelligence to have a conversation or a debate. So I'd rather just be ignorant and tell people I don't do politics. And then when they want to get into a discussion, I'm like, oh, I don't even know who our vice president is. So like, don't even worry about it. And that was, I mean, ignorance is bliss, right? It was great that I didn't have to talk politics. But the reason I didn't vote for Obama the second time was Obamacare. I was a business owner, very healthy. All of a sudden I was being charged to have insurance that I didn't need. And I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. So
Yeah.
not voting for you again. And that's kind of when I realized, oh, some of this stuff affects me. But really, just like a lot of people in 2020, the minute it came to my door and it locked my family down and it took my income, I was like, all right, I'm into this. Like I can get on board with fighting this.
Yeah. I think 2020 was a big eye opener for a lot of people that, who you vote for locally, state, even national
100%.
elections
Oh,
affect your
yeah.
everyday life.
Yep.
And, it was a big eye opener.
Well, in a lot of ways, I think the pandemic was one of the best things that ever happened in this country, because it definitely it shed light on a lot of those issues, right? It shed light on, hey, if you give the government an inch, they're going to take a mile. And then it also shed a light on just how fascist and tyrannical so many of the people around you actually are.
Yeah.
The moment that they can
Exactly.
exercise any little bit of authority on you. And I'll tell you what, one of the first things I thought of during the lockdowns was I see exactly how 1940 Germany took place. I know exactly how the Holocaust took place. This sheds such a light on that. And, one of the other things as far as like being apolitical, I think there's always this kind of looming threat or thought in our head that like, it's just better if we are apolitical. Like, I don't need to share my politics. I don't need to be fighting for everything, because we think that it's going to buy us something. But at the end of the day, that is essentially a tool of the left, because we don't get that on the right, right? The right is not, you don't see that on the right, where people are saying, you know what, to the extent of usually any sort of boycott or anything like that, where it's like, oh, you voted for Obama, I'm not coming to your business, or I'm going to leave you a bad Google review. But we see that on the right, and I think that also shed the light on that, in that you know what? You didn't be fighting every day. And not
Right.
only that, not only will being free to express yourself and to share with the world, and I'm not saying it should be who you are 100% of the time. We don't need to be Patriot Barbie, 100% of the time.
She does.
There's only one of us.
But
There's
Your
no room for
husband- your
two.
husband too,
There's
Gary.
no room for two.
Your husband too. You get it.
but the thing is that it actually, people respect it. People respect who you are. And it also, if everybody was doing that, it's like, hey, this is who I am. The left never would have thought that they had the force that they thought they had, right? There would be a little bit of a deterrent if we'd always been as vocal as we had. A lot of people had been, post the pandemic. So,
Right.
and then not only that, obviously, you're probably doing better business wise than ever before. I don't know if that's true or not, but the point is that you see that there is strength in expressing who you are, how you feel, and not being afraid to say, you know what, this is what I believe. This is who I voted for. If you don't like it, then,
Yeah.
I don't want to be your friend anyhow.
Yep. The greatest gift they gave me was freedom, right? Because as a stylist, you are not supposed to talk politics or religion, right? So I didn't. And that's a lot of the reason why I didn't also talk politics. And when they completely canceled me and I literally lost everything that I owned, it was kind of like, well, now I'll say whatever I want. Because now what are you going to do to me? You
Yeah,
can't,
what
there's
do you
no
have to
business to
lose?
leave a review on. There's no phone number for you to text and harass. There's no like, we're calling Oregon OSHA. I'm like, I don't even live in Oregon. So like they gave me, by canceling me and costing me everything, they gave me a very rare ability to now say, well, now I can say and do whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do to me.
Yeah.
And now, if I were emotionally invested in like their opinions, it would be hurtful, right? The things that they say, and they make fun of my looks, and they make fun of everything about me. But I don't care about that stuff because I'm like, well, I know who I am in Christ. I know who my identity is, and so your words don't mean anything. They go over your head. And when somebody calls you something that you're not, you're kind of like, okay, that's not an insult, right? You call me a racist. I already know that I'm not a racist. So I'm not offended when you call me a racist. I'll be offended if you say something about my character that hurts to the core that I know is true, but they don't know that because they don't know me. So them doing what they did to me, again, they created an arch nemesis, because if I had survived that and remained in Oregon, I might have had to like tone it down and still be like, okay, I'm walking on eggshells now. I got to be really careful. This community already hates me. Now I'm like, oh, screw you guys. I'm going full bore.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was such a gift. Because not
Yes.
everyone can do what I can do, because they do have things to lose still. I don't.
Sure.
So
100%. And there's something very freeing when you definitely can identify your enemy, right? Like, okay, it's like, when you're in high school or whatever, and there's this gossip, you don't really know where things are coming from. But when you have somebody that you can kind of confront and basically say, hey, you know what, there's a clear line drawn, like, you're not my friend. I'm not your friend. I have no problems with that. But, I think it's just great that you had the courage to stand up. There's still a lot of people that didn't. There's still a lot of people that took what they thought was the risk mitigation route. And I think that is going to end up hurting them in the end.
Well, I think they're still
Right.
having to compromise a lot as far
Yeah.
as their beliefs and that kind of thing,
And
because they took
there's
that route.
a lot of folks in places like where you're saying, like you're stuck in Oregon or New York or whatever other of these liberal bastions.
I like those
are.
2 states you named.
They're awesome. They're amazing.
Sorry, honey.
Where they're stuck there because of families there or whatever else, and they don't feel like they have the freedom, or they're not willing to move to another state that's going to be a little
Right.
bit more kind to them. And I just wanted to say, folks, by the way, I am looking at your comments over there, and at the end, just like we do normally when we have a guest, we'll definitely throw up your comments, throw up some of the questions that you guys have, and definitely have a Q&A session there toward the end. But so you end up moving to Arizona. How did
Yes.
that take place?
So it was in the right. I mean, it was in the midst of the George Floyd riots. So after I had stood up and called to arms outside my salon, you wouldn't believe that it wasn't just 400 people outside my salon with, AR-15s and like full camo tactical gear. It was a series of news outlets that managed to capture all of these viral clips all underneath the huge glamour salon sign, right? So if anything happened in Salem, it wasn't on the next corner down. It was in front of my salon. They captured all of these situations that were blown completely out of context, taken out of context, and then put it on the news with my salon sign. And so it became like day after day after day of like, oh my gosh, Lindsay, did you see this article? I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And it was another news article of such and such that got blown out of proportion and was blatantly like a fabricated story about me, the white supremacist. And so I can talk about it now, obviously, like just fine, unemotionally, because I live now what God has done in my life and how beautiful the whole story has been. But in this time, I had 6 businesses, right? So each of those businesses had an email, a phone number, an Instagram, a Facebook, a Google page, a Yelp page, right? So 6 times 6 is 36, 36 outlets where people were, the cancel culture were messaging, calling, leaving bad reviews. They were getting on my online scheduling on my salon, and they were booking fake appointments all day for all of my stylists. So when we'd come to work, we didn't have clients all day.
Right.
And we couldn't have clients because our schedule looked like we were full. And we never knew who we could or could not delete because they were all fake accounts. I received so much hate that a lesser person would have committed suicide. It felt like, and this is their goal, it felt like the entire world hated me. I had no reason to be who I was or to exist, and that I shouldn't feel safe. That's many people wanted to hurt me.
Well,
And
they definitely would have celebrated if you had caused any harm to yourself or anything bad
Totally.
had happened
Oh,
to you.
yeah.
yes,
100%.
yep. Oh yeah, it would have been a haha. That's what she gets, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were wishing that my kids would get COVID and die. Like I had a newborn baby, 6 weeks old, and they're just disgusting people. But I got really like, I don't want to say depressed because I think that is a clinical diagnosis. For 2 days, I just like, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was depressed. My eyes were like dark circles, losing weight. My mother-in-law was moving to Arizona and my dad had already moved to Arizona. And she looked at me and she's like, Lindsay, maybe you guys should just move to Arizona. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And my husband's like, that sounds good to me. And I'm like, I am not kidding. I called the realtor the next day. I was like, let's get out of here. It's not safe here. So that's how that happened. Just like that. We were moved. The George Floyd riots were in like June or July. We were moved to Arizona by September.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
It's awesome that you guys had the courage to do that. It was awesome that your husband supported all that.
Yeah.
So how does besides wanting to keep the Patriot Barbie at home sometimes, how does your husband deal with all this?
now he's seeing the benefits and the perks of Patriot
Sure.
Barbie, right? I just got off the phone with a gun company and they want to make me a custom Patriot Barbie AR-15. What? Let me shoot it. I'm like, it's hot pink.
Badass.
Yeah, it's like he's loving it now. But he's been supportive when it was costing us everything. He was
Sure.
supportive. When Child Protective Services showed up and said, we're going to take your kids away if you
What?
don't. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that
State
in Oregon or?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
State of Oregon, 2 days after reopening, they stuck Child Protective Services to our door, threatened to take away our kids. And even then he was like, you do what you got to do. I know that this is your fight. And then moving to Arizona with no jobs, no income, like literally not knowing what we were going to do. He has just been 100% on board. And now it's been 4 years and it took maybe like that first year, especially when I wrote my book, realizing that I believe that God's called me into this and him getting to watch me fall into that purpose and going, okay, I see now, like it might've cost us everything and we might've had to leave Oregon, but this is what you're meant to be doing.
But that
And
was God's
I'm
plan
thriving.
all along.
Yes. And how can
Yeah.
any husband say, I don't support that once you see your wife doing something that is literally changing people's lives?
Yeah.
So he's all in now.
Well, yeah, I think there's something to that too. We always talk about God lets things happen that we can handle. And I think, he let exactly the right circumstances happen to exactly the right person at the right time. So, I think that's a real testament to you, your family. Faith wise, I see now, you're, pro-life, you're, a Christian, very conservative. Is that kind of how you were always organized as a person? Organized as a person. Is this how we always organize as a person? Is that how you were prior to that, or has there been a lot of evolution in those areas of your life as well?
I love this because you asked this question earlier and I totally didn't answer it. I went on some kind of tangent.
No, that's fine.
So I was raised a Christian.
Mhm.
I was raised conservative, and I was raised with my parents voting Republican our entire life. It was when I became an adult that I didn't want the responsibility of paying attention to politics.
Sure.
And it would have been like, I seriously think in my young, probably 20s, I would probably call my dad and go, who do I vote for? And he would just tell me. I did fall away from God in my 20s, and that is how I believe that God is so intimately called me into having a platform, not just as the Patriot Barbie who stands for freedom. But a lot of my 20s were spent doing things that totally went against my, moral beliefs, my religious beliefs. I fell off the wagon. I mean, that's the best way you can put it. And that's the gentlest way. And now that I have a platform, I use those stories as my testimony. I use
Sure.
those stories as ministry. And it's interesting to watch the Patriot Barbie evolve from like, a badass gunslinging, freedom fighting, tyrannical fighting, salon owner to like, no, that is what God used to change my life. And I'm still that person, but I'm also really heavily feeling like God's calling me into, kind of a women's ministry type thing, to use my platform to speak up against, I was in an abusive relationship for 3 years, 20 years ago. I was a drug addict. I was a stripper. I had an abortion. I mean, I was like the worst of the worst. And I think God let me go through all of that so that now that I've found my purpose and he's elevating my platform and putting me on stages, I'm able to use that to glorify him, not just, I opened my salon, good for me. Like, that's not my whole story. That's what God used to give me a platform. But the real story is I get up there and glorify God, not Trump or, any certain governor or whatever. It's, the reason that I became who I became is because God formed me into this person.
Right.
Yeah, I can only imagine anytime you're going through something like that and going through such a change in life, there's a lot of self-reflection, and it does give you an opportunity to kind of reorient yourself and your principles and your purpose. And it's like, okay, I got away with being indifferent to politics or religion or whatever else. Now I don't have that luxury. All right, let's figure out exactly what I stand for. And if I'm going to have a voice, what is that voice going to say? And you got to start defining. You got to start defining those principles. And like you said, you're thrust into politics. You don't get the luxury of just saying, "Oh, I don't know who the vice president is.
Right.
I don't know what these platforms are. I don't." If you got to go talk, you got questions to answer, and you got to have answers ready for that. And really, we got to have those answers ready for ourselves. And a lot of people haven't done that before. They haven't self-reflected enough to really think about what they believe on some really important issues in this country. And the fact of the matter is a lot of these issues that are very important to us today probably weren't all that important prior to COVID. And I think it was it really was a revolution and or a revival, an American revival of what the threats are really out there.
Right. And even as you say, like figuring out where you stand, there's no doubt in my mind when I first started speaking up, I would get called out for some hypocritical, statements that I would make, not very blatant, not like, some politicians are, I'm pro-life. No, just kidding. I'm pro-choice. But just like having to dissect everything from the LGBTQ community to the trans community to abortion. When I first started this platform, I sat down and I told myself, well, the heartbeat begins at 6 weeks, approximately 21 days after conception. I think that that's when abortion should not be allowed.
Sure.
And then as I would have arguments, I would hear myself, this is literally must be a gift from God. I could hear myself saying something that contradicts what I really believe, right? Well, as I've grown with like my faith and with Jesus Christ, I'll go back to the Bible and go, he knew us when he formed us in the womb, not when the heartbeat started. So like, I've changed my stance on where I stand pro-life, that life begins at conception. And you bet your butt that like, if you contradict yourself in your beliefs, someone will find a way. So you have to sit down and go, on this topic exactly, and the topics that could relate to this topic, where do I stand before I say where I stand? Because one of the things that I don't support is the death penalty. And what's crazy is I kind of want to, but it would be hypocritical because I believe that life begins at conception and that no one should have the authority to take life except God, that you can't play God in with people's lives. That means that even though my human heart wants to be like, kill him, he's a pedophile, put the needle in his arm, I'm like, that goes against where I stand when I say life begins at conception and we shouldn't take things out of God's hands. So it's like things like that. It doesn't seem like they would relate, the death penalty and abortion, but yet they do. And like the left will find it, but even more so, our own side will find it too. Like find out, are you a voice of hypocriticalness, if that's a word? Or, where do you stand and how firmly? Or are you going to backpedal when I face you with a concept that you haven't thought through yet?
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting take. You don't hear many people say that, and it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 110% perfect sense.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I will say that I have definitely evolved on the death penalty a lot. Not necessarily because I find any sort of conscientious objection. I do think there's a big difference, obviously, between a innocent child that never gets a chance to live than somebody else. There was death penalty in the Bible. But regardless of all that, I have evolved mainly because we've seen how bad our justice system is. Mm-hmm. And you see so many people that have definitely
wrongfully
they've been they've been executed and they found out later on that hey, they didn't commit the crime. Or people that were on death row that end up getting taken off death row, exonerated because we have a problem in the justice system of law enforcement going after people no matter what. Like they want a conviction and they see it as their job where they get this feeling like, I just think he's guilty. Or you just have some people that are just straight up corrupt and just are going to get a conviction. They don't care what the facts point to, whatever it is. But the point is we have a very somewhat corrupt, definitely imperfect justice system. So I'm softer on the death penalty for that reason. But
it sounds like you might talk yourself into actually agreeing with me if you keep talking.
I was going to say,
like you might. You just said we kill people that shouldn't be killed, and we don't kill people that we should kill. Maybe we shouldn't kill people, and then that would be good.
50-50 on the death penalty stuff.
I think I'm pretty sure
deserve it.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If we know for a fact that you did X, Y, and Z, we should kill the shit out of you. But the problem is that we don't always know for a fact that you did X, Y, and Z.
She just argued her point. She just said. She's like, hey, if we just don't kill anybody, then we don't have to worry about that.
Right. I'm totally fine with paying taxes on someone sitting and rotting in a stone cell. Like, I'll pay for that, right? I don't, whatever. 100%. But hey, Jeff Johnson makes a great point. If they can do it to a former president,
don't ever tell him that, Lindsey.
What can they not
Christ.
do to us? In current time, we're watching President Trump get persecuted for something he didn't do.
Yeah.
100%.
And it's like we live in a world of people who are not righteous. If we still lived in biblical times when people were decently righteous, right? Or they could actually see physically like the cloud of God and maybe they'd answer to it. But like we live with people, most people don't honor God anymore. So of course our justice system is corrupt. They don't answer to any morality. Of course people are corrupt. They don't answer to any morality. So when you say like, if we saw someone do it, I'm like, but can we believe what we saw? If we saw with our own eyes, President Trump shoot somebody point blank in the head, you still couldn't believe it because of AI. So how can you ever? What if he was shooting Hillary Clinton?
That was his own analogy. He's like, everybody loves me so much, I could shoot somebody in Times Square. They still vote
And
for
they'd
me. I'm
still
like,
vote for you.
You're not wrong. If it's either him, Hillary Clinton, or Biden, I'm going with
She makes a great point. You can never believe anything you see anymore.
You really can't. And especially with AI and everything else that's coming up, it's going to become more just ambiguous and just nonsensical, and there's going to be a lot more stuff coming out. And you know, again, we have a absolutely corrupt media. We have an absolute corrupt Hollywood. All these people that just go out there, and we have a corrupt justice system. And we see, you know, everybody's using the word lawfare. I kind of hate that term, but at the same time, it's an absolutely correct term. And what's going on with President Trump and throwing all these things, it's absolutely insane. It will happen to us. And we see how vicious the left really is. And I don't think what we see is actually the height of just how vicious they were. I think, you know, the left right now is making the best argument ever for the Second Amendment. You know, we are going to get to a point where when we do have a point, we are at a point where we have people in colleges calling for the destruction of and the overthrow and a revolution of America. Down with Israel, down with the USA. Man, shit's getting real out there, folks. You guys got to pay attention and stay armed and stay ready. There's no doubt about it.
We have a college student helping out in the shop while she's home for the summer, and I've been dropping little nuggets on her all the time. She was like, well, what's going on with Trump? Why is he on trial? And so I was, you know, telling her, she's like, well, that's bullcrap. He didn't even do anything. And I was like, well, yeah. And then yesterday it was election day here. And I was like, are you going to vote? And she's like, well, I'm not even registered. And I was like, here's the link. Go register.
Oh my gosh.
And she sat right there and registered to vote.
Good.
Yeah. doing my part in my little area of the world.
That's right.
So were you always pro Second Amendment? That's another great question.
Yes. Yeah.
I always compliment my own questions. I'm as bad as Trump. Apparently.
That is a great, you know what? That's a great question. You know who's going to have a better question than you though? Jeff Johnson.
Pretty much. Oh my God.
Johnson, yeah.
I unfriend you. I'm knocking her off. You're removed from the chat. Look,
I don't know who this guy is.
Here's the deal, Lindsay. You could compliment and reference any questions over there, comments of anyone except for Jeff.
Jeff Johnson. Okay, deal. Jeff's on. We call this cancel culture. And you're welcome.
Yes, you're canceled, Jeff.
He's removed from the chat.
Yeah. So
Block him.
he's like, no, he's gonna go leave 1-star reviews on all your stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. So my generational, the men in my family are all military. My dad is a retired police officer. My older brother, younger brother, both military, but one military police and the other police sergeant. So yes, I've always been pro 2A because I've been around guns and the useful, appropriate handling of guns since I was like 5 years old. So
Yeah.
yep, always been
cool.
pro 2A.
That's awesome. Now, have you seen? I know you were just attending some training. I think it was low. Excuse me. I think Adam was saying it was some low light training that you guys were doing down in Florida.
Yeah.
How long have you been actively seeking training and going to courses and things like that?
Not very long, actually. I'm comfortable with firearms, but I don't shoot that often. And kind of as my platform grows and I get a little more hate and more bad attention than I would like, I feel like, okay, people are already asking like, you have security, right? I'm like, no. I'm like, I should probably be my own security until I have security. And, you know, I have 3 kids and it's way more important that I protect them. So it's just kind of been the last year that I've realized I want to be really comfortable with my concealed carry weapon. Not just comfortable. I want to know that in the situation, I would be able to react appropriately. And that's what I feel like this training did for me last month. It was at WAFT in Orlando. My biggest fear was, naturally, I'm an aggressive person. I'm like, would I pull the gun and shoot way before I was entitled to because I'm so aggressive? Or would I pull my gun and shoot when it's warranted? And so for me, this real life scenario training, I was totally in character. I mean, there were people there that were like, back off, don't get closer. And I'm like, no, I'm going to treat you like you're going to hurt me because I want to know instinctively how I would react if you did. And I learned that I indeed would pull my weapon and shoot who needs shooted, I would shoot
No,
who need,
no, don't change it. Just who needs shooted.
whoever needed shooted. I would shooter them. And
You damn right.
You know, you will fit in perfectly here in West Virginia.
Oh my
Just come
God.
on down there.
Come on over. Come on to the hollers.
I'm a shooter you if you deserve it.
I understood exactly what you were saying.
I know you did.
I know 99% of our viewers was like, oh, yeah, I know. Damn right.
Oh, shoot. Let her shoot her. Let her shoot her.
Let her shoot on all the shooters.
He does shoot it.
She shooted everybody.
So did you shoot appropriately or too
Oh, she shooted
aggressively
good.
before time?
I shot appropriately.
There you go.
Yeah, it was actually, and there was a situation where we were doing a fake carjacking, and there was 3 people involved in the carjacking, and I pulled my weapon and I shot only the perp. I love to use the word perp. The perp with the weapon, but I did not shoot the other 2, even though, in my opinion, emotions are high and adrenaline is high. You would just start shooting, and I didn't. I actually pointed the gun at one person, ready for her to act, and she never did. So I held, and I was like, oh, I handled that appropriately. And I honestly believe that there's something in, I might be wrong. I have a theory that there's something in your genetics when you come from a family of law enforcement. It takes a special kind of person to be in law enforcement, as far as like thinking critically and putting your emotions aside and being able to register a very, very fast paced situation as it's happening. And I feel like that kicked in, and I was like, oh, my dad would be so proud.
No,
I didn't shoot her. I didn't shoot her. Anyone that didn't need shootered.
You didn't kill anybody that didn't need. Don't kill anybody that don't need killing.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, I think, definitely, at least at a minimum, growing up in those environments, it definitely, whether you realize it or not, you're getting some. You're exposed to that all the time. You're getting exposed to that mindset. You're getting exposed to people that are walking around with good situational awareness. I think that's one of the big things that most people today, especially walking around with a device, they just have no situational awareness. And that's when that's absolutely not only your best defense, but your best deterrent. People just paying attention to what's going on around them, because people are out there looking for those sheep. And if you look like a sheep and you're not paying attention, you're going to be targeted.
The wolf's going to get you.
That's right.
The wolf's going to eat you.
You're gonna get eaten.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
That's awesome. So,
Oh, I missed my calling as a comedian. I'm telling you.
Hey, there's still a chance. You got a platform now. Go
Yeah,
for
you
it.
damn right.
That's
you do.
right. That's right. Oh, man.
does your husband shoot firearms as well? Does he like shooting?
Did you not hear?
Yes.
She was trying to shoot her hot pink AR.
I know. I
That's
heard
right.
that. I don't know what that
He
means.
loves, yes, he loves
It's
to shoot.
a color, Gary. Like
Yeah.
a Cerakote color.
Yeah, if he had his way, we'd be at the range every weekend.
That's awesome.
He used to have a collection before he lost it in a boating accident.
That happens. It's happened. It happened to all of us. But
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Boating accidents
Those
happen.
darn boats.
Yeah,
This
I know.
lake close to us has got damn near 30 of my guns.
Dang.
I'll get them one day.
No, that's awesome. Well, if you guys are ever down in West Virginia, I think get you guys out on the range. It'll be a good time.
Okay, love it. West Virginia. I haven't heard that state in a while.
West.
We're actually
It's actually best.
We're in the nice West Virginia.
we're
Oh.
actually an hour and a half from DC.
Okay,
That's,
okay.
not, that's not why I said it's the best West
No,
Virginia.
definitely
This is
not.
just a beautiful area of the state.
Yeah.
And not to sound, I'm not bashing any other areas of the state, but this is one of the.
Sounds like you are.
This is one of the
Sounds like you're worried about
Ri-
snowflakes.
richest areas of
It
the
is,
state.
it is.
So it's
Okay.
it's not the traditional when you think of West
You're
Virginia.
not in coal country.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, West Virginia was the only state I ever declared I would never live in, and of course, like 4 years later, I was living there.
Oh, that's
Welcome,
hilarious.
brother.
That's what you get. That's what you get.
100%. And you know what? I love it here.
West Virginia's been good to us.
It's super pretty here, Lindsay. We're like you said, we're an hour and a half out of DC. So as government
Okay.
standards, we have I think we're the 4th highest paid government
Second.
salary. No, we're 4th.
Okay.
Oh,
Let me
he
think.
knows.
I
Don't.
know.
He knows.
I know. We're like the 4th highest paid besides like San Francisco, Texas, and New York or something like that.
She
And
thought you were
then-
going to say county.
yeah. But also where we're at, we're close, like you said, to DC, Baltimore, hour and a half. But where their house is at, and I'm only as a crow flies less than a mile away. We're over the mountain in this beautiful valley with a creek running through the bottom of it.
Oh,
And then just a
beautiful.
little bit farther is another beautiful mountain with a huge, I forget, it's like 28,000 state acres that you can hunt on and stuff. It's just, we're in like the perfect spot of the metropolitan area.
Yeah, you know, like we only have 7 acres here, but it's unrestricted. You know, I have a range on my
Yeah,
backyard.
you can
Of
pee
course
off
we
the
have-
porch and
So good.
Of course we
it's
have.
unrestricted.
You know,
Peeing off the porch is especially important.
That's
You
unrestricted.
guys, you know what? You had me at peeing off the porch. I'm
know,
in.
right?
When do I come?
That's
Especially
a
when you
huge
have boys.
thing. That's a huge
I
thing.
don't know if I would use like pulling out your male parts and having a range on your property in the same sentence. Like people are firing weapons. I would maybe use the little boys.
That's the perfect
Well,
analogy, Lindsay.
there's only like 4 neighbors that can even see us. So
Well, I
No,
thought you
there's
said
not.
see
Oh,
it.
that's-
So what you're
No,
saying
not
is
see it, see
what
us.
you're saying is you could pull out any weapon at all on your
Yes,
property
you
and be
can.
fine.
That's right.
Bingo.
But with that being said, you know, we're still like 15 minutes away from you know,
Anything.
all amenities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Town.
From an Olive Garden.
And
Oh,
we do
that's
have
what I'm
the-
talking about. Oh, I love Olive Garden so much. If they go woke, I'm done. If Olive Garden goes woke, I'm like, I'm gonna hide away. Oh, I love them so much.
The
They're gonna have transgender breadsticks.
Like, oh, nope, I ain't going there no more.
that's funny.
Oh.
I forgot what I was going to say now. I lost my train
Obviously.
of thought. Oh well, I guess it wasn't
Something
that
about,
important.
something
West
about
Virginia?
peeing off your porch again? No. Okay.
No, that was what it was. And we have the politics of West Virginia, so that's good. And the crazy thing is, since when we first got here, we had a Democrat governor.
I'm
We
not
have
sure
went,
our Republican governor is all that Republican, but
no, but he's getting ready to get replaced by a
Easy old
hardcore.
Big Jim.
No, he's a turd.
He's
He's
got
a-
baby dog.
He's a turd. But with that being said, it's gotten redder and redder since we got here.
yeah,
We
for
just
sure.
had constitutional. We had a constitutional carry passed. Right now,
no taxes on
no
ammo
taxes
and guns.
on ammo and guns.
Which is awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot
They've
better.
done a lot of tax refunds because of government surplus. Yeah, we're getting lower tax rates effectively on a lot of things.
We got a
So,
better sheriff in our county as interim, and then he's going to get reelected.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't vote for him. I didn't.
He wasn't on the ballot, so you didn't vote for him yet.
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should have.
I didn't really know.
You should've.
I called Matt. I was like, "Hey, what's this new sheriff?"
Damn it, Matt doesn't
The
know.
problem. Matt responded like 2 hours after I got
I
back
know.
from the voice.
Well,
so-
Jay called me. Jay was like, "Who am I voting for sheriff?" I was like, "Oh, all right, I got you. I know the chief. Let me let you in on this secret." But no,
So,
It's like
Lindsay,
Lindsay's politics. You
what's-
just call her dad and ask.
Yeah.
that's
Tell me
that's
who.
what you do.
Yeah. Now people call me. Who should I vote for? I'm like, I'm glad you asked.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm being paid a commission. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not. I just want to have
just
friends.
kidding.
I just want to have
Can't
friends.
beat 'em,
to
join
I
'em.
wish. Yeah, that's
So-
right.
What's the next step for you as far as politics? You ever see yourself getting into
Oh,
politics?
Good question.
I love this question. I do not see myself ever getting into politics. However,
She's gonna be running for governor next year.
I know president. Actually, president. I'm just
Maybe
going to jump
Senate.
straight to
Maybe
the top.
Senate. I was
Trump's
just gonna say.
Trump's VP. Trump's VP.
100%.
I have no interest whatsoever. But I have said from the very beginning, whatever God calls me to do, I will do it. And all of this journey has been God calling me to do it, like writing my book, which, sounds silly, but like I had no intention of writing a book. And I don't know, just everything, every door that opens, I pray about it and kind of ask the Lord where he wants me to go. And I would say in full authority that if he made it very clear, like, I want you to run for this office, then I would be like, all right, who do I call first? Like, that's what I would do. So far, he hasn't. Charlie Kirk put it very eloquently in something he said once to me, which was that people say the same thing to him. Like, you're going to run for president, right? You're going to run for this, or you're going to do this. And he's like, aren't I doing a really good job at what I'm doing right now? Because no one else can do what I'm doing. So if I go and do this, who's going to do what I'm doing?
Yep.
And that has really stuck with me, because I'm like, if I go run for office, I will be very distracted with fundraising and politics and laws and bills and lobbyists and doing, interviews. I will be unable to do what I do now, which is reels exposing schools and reels exposing groomers and, coming alongside other patriotic companies and embracing them and endorsing them. I won't be able to write any more children's books or do my ministry or do my Bible study. Like, that'll consume my life. So by people asking me to, not that you're asking me to do it, you're asking me if I would do it, but I've had people say, will you run for school board? And I'm like, no, of all the things to run for, absolutely not school board. But you understand that if you ask me to run for school board, I won't be speaking at any of the school board meetings, right? I'll be doing less damage. I'll be less effective. Yeah. I'll be tied up with paperwork my entire life. That's like the last thing you want me to do.
And what I was thinking earlier when you mentioned your women's ministry, I think the message of hope, you're spreading a message of hope in both the political arena, that people can actually stand up for what they believe in, and you're spreading a message of hope that's really important to women, that, even through all the battles they face, there's still God there for them, and there's still hope that they can turn their life around. And no matter what bad things they've done, they can totally turn their life around.
Yep.
And I think that's more important than any of it.
Yeah. And so far, that's what I feel like is my calling, is the reason that God's elevating my, my platform and putting me on these huge stages, is because when I get up on that stage, I do what he tells me to do. I give him the glory for everything that's happened in my life. And if I feel like that's my calling, then I can't be distracted with other things that may or may not seem glamorous or, I don't know, just pleasing other people and doing what other people want me to do.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a real case to be made, whether it's you, Charlie Cook, or some of these other people that are having a really large impact on our society. I don't think anybody would be nearly as effective once they get into politics. Right. I think, you are everything is so manufactured to that point. And like you said, you're gonna be so busy with so many other things that really, of course, laws affect us. Of course, all these things have a real impact, and there's some politicians that are more effective at managing those things than others. But I think for the most part, like, they're not changing culture. And, people like you, people like Charlie Cook, people like Jordan Peterson, whoever it is, these people are out there spreading a message, free to say what they want, how they want, without worrying about an office or worrying about all these other responsibilities, and are making real changes in our country, and not just our country, worldwide. I think there's an awakening going on that's global. It's not just in this country.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But if I run for VP, only with Trump.
Did you call
Well,
him?
the last president picked his VP based on her sex, so maybe there's a chance.
That's right.
Well, and I think Trump is one of the few people that can actually leverage that office in a way that nobody else has ever or will ever.
I mean, you ain't wrong.
Because he doesn't care.
No.
He just does not care.
He's just like, get on my coattails. Come on.
And, that's exactly what our founders wanted. They wanted somebody that didn't care about getting reelected. They didn't expect, senators and all these other people.
They weren't in office to get rich.
They weren't supposed to be in office to turn it into a career.
And how do they get rich? They only make like $130 a year.
I don't know, Chris.
It's just they're blessed.
It's a valid question.
I say God just blesses them with money because
because they're so smart.
It just appears in their bank account.
It's weird because they're making like GS14 money, but then they don't
they
become
end up like
millionaires.
millionaires.
I don't
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I need to figure that
maybe
out.
I will go into politics.
I was gonna say, I don't just
Obama-
understand this situation.
Obama has like 6 mansions. I'm like, I'll run for Senate.
Well,
Just
one's
don't go
up here in
paddleboarding at
Loudon.
any of them.
Yes, no kidding.
Well,
He gated off his development in Loudoun County.
and they all happen to be pretty much all of them on the coast, which seems to be weird if
global warming,
we're not going to have any
Well,
coast
it's
fires
because-
in
I don't
a
get
couple
that.
years.
It's because the water is not just good for losing firearms.
That's
It's
right.
also good for losing bodies.
And witnesses.
Yeah.
Yep.
Witnesses.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't go
Did,
paddleboarding.
did Epstein?
Well,
kill himself?
guys, I just said what I said, so you could just. It was really nice to know you. Apparently, I'm suicidal. I'm suicidal now.
Today in the news, Lindsey Graham lost her guns and herself in a voting accident.
No, not that Lindsey Graham. The other Lindsey Graham.
That's funny. Yeah, stay away from bodies of water. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Or stay
only
away
small
from Hillary
creeks.
Clinton. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Let's take some questions here. We got, go ahead and throw some questions, some comments on here.
I don't know. I see a lot of Patriot. You got a lot of new fans.
We got a lot of
Aw.
new
Yeah,
fans.
Patriot
we
Barbie.
do. I hope they subscribe and like.
Yep.
What I want you guys to do is definitely go down in the description. We got her X account down there, her website, the link to her book. Go check out all that. What else, Lindsay? What else do people need to go check out?
My Instagram is my main platform. I'm very docile on X. I'm like, it's just another platform. I gotta
See, it's
post.
opposite.
I do a lot of
Gary
Instagram.
like goes
Yeah.
to town on X, whereas our Instagram and Facebook and all are very much
Yeah.
business
Kind of
appropriate.
on message. I haven't been on X in quite a while, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
I've been posting those. I'm
Thanks,
definitely
Gary.
shadow banned on X. Re-shadow banned.
Oh yeah.
There was
Yeah.
from-
See,
Elon banned you?
Somebody did.
No.
The algorithm got me.
the liberals ratted you out.
Yep. Well, the funny thing was,
I thought he was cool.
No, the funny thing was when they were going through that whole thing with when Elon was buying it, and he was going after, he was talking about, well, there was a lot of things going on as he was trying to purchase it, but at one point they shut down the algorithm, and suddenly I got like 15. I was barely even posting on there because I just wasn't getting any reach on there, and then like without posting hardly anything. Suddenly I was getting like 1,500 subscribers here, another 100 here, like just crazy amount of reach. And then once he bought it, it was like a couple weeks later, like it just like
Turn back
closed.
on.
Everything was turned
So
back on.
weird. Oh my gosh.
So, and I've tried calling him on the cell phone to talk to him about it.
You need to talk to Jay. Jay owns a Tesla, so he's like in the in crowd.
Oh yeah. They have a direct line to Elon as soon as they buy a
Damn
Tesla.
right they do.
Instead of the OnStar button, it's the Elon button.
It's
It's
Elon.
like-
Yeah.
It rings his home phone. He's like,
Oh my gosh.
yes, how you doing, sir?
So, what has your experience been with censorship and things like that on social media?
Oh, it's been juicy. I've been when I say banned, I mean they delete your account, right? So
Yeah,
banned on Facebook twice, banned on Instagram twice. One of them being January 7th, 2021.
Mm.
That's
Right?
weird. I don't know what that number.
I forgot
what
your
that
present.
Coincidence
What's that?
much?
I got a present for
Let's
you.
just say I was near West Virginia.
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
Gotcha.
Gary?
I have no
Yes.
idea what that means.
Yeah, he was near. She was
Trying to
near
figure out
West
if
Virginia.
Gary is really this dense.
No.
No, I was tracking. I was joking.
Gary,
I
blink
wish
if blink
I
if you
really-
know what I mean.
I wish I brought your present now because it's related to that, Gary. Damn it.
Oh,
I'm tracking 100%.
I'll bring it
Oh,
next
yeah.
week. Tune in next week. I got Gary a present from that.
oh my
It's
gosh,
funny,
exciting.
they're still mapping all that data out to
Yeah.
see who was there.
They know I was there. It was all over the news.
Yeah.
The salon owners at the Trump insurrection. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm wearing like red, white, blue pajamas and like red glitter lipstick.
Just
Look at me,
just
I'm a terrorist.
straight up kicking doors in, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to blend in here.
And they got a picture of me putting on my lip gloss. Oh my gosh. Storm the Capitol. I got to look good when I storm the Capitol. God,
Did
this is
any
my good
officials ever come
side.
talk to you about that?
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
had the FBI came to my house and they came
What?
and they came to my salon. So when I moved to Arizona, I held on to like a handful of clients and I would fly back to Oregon, do some clients, and then fly back home. It's someone else's salon. And the FBI came to my house when I was in Oregon, and my mother-in-law was like, she's in Oregon at not her salon, she's in Oregon. And then they went to the salon and I was already back home.
Spend that taxpayer
but-
money.
Yeah, they made it very clear that they didn't want to harm me. They wanted my information. They wanted my photos. They wanted my videos. So they basically wanted to put other people in jail based on my phone. And so I said, nope, you can talk to my attorney. And
Well,
I never gave
I'm
it to
sure
him.
everybody that's sitting in jail, they started out with that same story. It's not about you.
Right.
It's about everybody else that
Right.
that did other
Yep.
things. Yeah.
Well, do you guys know the story of Luke Coffey? You followed?
No.
So he's a J6er, and he felt compelled at J6 to go and stand between, like, the infamous tunnel.
Yeah.
So he stood in between the Capitol Police and the people, and he felt like God told him to go in there and just hold his arms up and just pray. So that's what he did. And randomly a crutch came flying into the crowd. He grabbed the crutch and he like held it up and he was like praying and he was telling people like, stop fighting, just pray. And little do people know, we're going to go down a quick rabbit hole here. While that was happening, a woman named Roseanne was actually trampled on those steps and died. So you only know that Ashley Babbitt died, but this woman, Roseanne, died. She was trampled by the Capitol Police, and he witnessed it. Well, so they've put him on trial for assaulting Capitol Police. By the way, testified in court. The Capitol Police testified he never touched any of them, but he's literally still on trial for assaulting Capitol Police. And I was around him when he got bear sprayed, and I didn't know who he was at the time. And he came back with his face all red and was like, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help. So I was like pouring water in his eyes and trying to help him. There's all these videos. So then when he got arrested, it was like, well, who's this chick helping him? So I flew out to Washington, D.C., I would say 4 months ago, and testified in his trial. And I was the kind of one of the only ones that would, because everyone else thought, well, as soon as I admit that I'm there, they're going to arrest me too.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they already know I was there. So, but here's what's interesting. The judge was so adamant that I not testify until I speak to an attorney, like an attorney.
Right.
And they just drove into my brain. Are you sure you want to do this? Like, if you get on the stand and you say this or you say that, or they can pin you anywhere on this. And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. And I don't remember a whole lot anyway, but I just remember helping Luke, and I'll say the truth. And they really didn't want me to do it. But when I got on the stand, it was supposed to be about me testifying like what I saw Luke do and not do. Right.
Right.
But this attorney was like, so where were you? And I was like, I don't know. And she goes, were you on the Capitol grounds?
The,
and I'm
the
like,
prosecuting attorney, I'm assuming.
yeah, the
right?
prosecuting attorney. Yeah. I was like, I don't know. And she goes, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, I've never been to the Capitol other than that one day. And it was a little bit crazy. So I don't know if I was on the Capitol grounds. She's like, you don't know what the Capitol looks like? I'm like, well, I drove by it yesterday, so now I kind of know what it looks like. But no, I mean, she was like, were you on marble? Were you on stone? Were you on grass? Did you go upstairs? It was like, why are you so adamant to place me in a certain place? It has nothing to do with Luke Coffee. She wanted me on the stand to be able to place myself in an area where they could arrest me for trespassing or whatever it is they wanted to do. And the truth is like, I hadn't ever been to the Capitol. I was following a crowd. I had no idea where I was, but she was trying so hard to get me to incriminate myself. And I was like,
Wow.
You're tricky, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of folks that found themselves in that situation where, that they were just railroaded, didn't really know what was going on. And, the thing is, and the problem is that we've seen a lot of the footage that they want to, because they want to paint an image while they're withholding a lot of other footage.
Yep.
So that, again, they're trying to turn what clearly was a protest, and we could even call parts of it a riot. I'm fine with that, but it was definitely not an insurrection. There's a definition to that. You don't get to just make up words and say them because they're inflammatory. So, but the fact is, I think there's a lot of folks that ended up walking into the Capitol after things had calmed down that ended up in prison or ended up being prosecuted. And it's absolutely insane that our government would do that to those folks.
Right.
While, while looking at the opposite side of that, you see everything that happened during the George Floyd riots, things that are happening even on campus now, where a different standard of justice is being applied to them.
Absolutely.
And that is what is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Where you've had Democrats many times occupy many different government buildings and things like that, where they weren't prosecuted. And you could have those things happen tomorrow and they're not going to get prosecuted. So we definitely have a two-tier justice system, at least currently. And, part of the problem that we see in the United States is we think that if we get Trump in there, a lot of these things will change. And don't get me wrong, it will be better. But the problem is that we have so many of these left-wing activists that are embedded into the different systems that we have of government that it's really hard to get away from that influence in one way or another. It's pretty insane the way that our country has gone. Hopefully we start swinging back the other way. But I don't know. I've had this conversation. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this, Lindsey. Maybe you're a little bit more hopeful than I am. But, I am concerned because we always hear the argument, it goes this way. It's a pendulum, right? It gets a little crazy over here, but we're going to swing back over here. But when you take a hard look at the economy, the way that we are so divided politically. Our nation is more divided than it's ever been before. I don't know, man. You know, I don't know if
You think the pendulum will never swing far enough back?
not in the way that I think it.
See, I'm more of a
we'd like.
wavelength. I'm not a pendulum. Huh? I'm a wavelength.
Like I said,
I'm a wavelength.
Poor Chris. Everyone's like, we don't care.
I don't care about it.
Moving on.
He doesn't pay me daily. It's a wavelength. It is.
we're
And you know
gonna
what?
talk smack no matter
the
what.
the peak doesn't, the peak maybe doesn't get as high, or the peak maybe doesn't get as low. It might come in the middle a little bit more. You're more of a pendulum, hoping it swings farther this way to swing. It's a wavelength, Gary.
I think
My point is, I don't know that
wavelength.
America will ever go back to anything that we recognize.
Well, let's see what the Patriot Barbie thinks.
I think Chris is on his period. That's what I think.
You know,
Sheesh. I'm going home.
I
Hold
love
on.
her.
Hey,
she was
Chris,
absolutely
by the
right,
way,
Chris.
Nope. I'm going home.
I'm gonna send you one of these shirts.
Oh, girl, I will wear the shit out of
The
that
real
shirt.
thing.
Is
I
it
know
what
you
to
will.
say? Famali?
Female, the real thing.
No, it's
Famali.
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 Yeah,
Female.
Famali.
Molly, the
Yeah.
real thing.
It's Italian.
But, you know, on the thumbnail I made for you, it said something about
Thanks a lot,
conservative
Lindsay.
woman.
Now, when I
almost
go
put-
home, my wife's gonna bitch at me. Be like, Jesus Christ, babe. Maybe this made us look bad on TV.
Baby, just go, baby, it's a wavelength.
I will.
Just
You
get on
damn
my
right I will.
wavelength.
Make us look good
And
next
be
week.
like, I'm going to tell her I'm getting a free T-shirt that says Famali. Just ship it to Paramount Tactical.
I actually would. I
Summit
would
Point,
love
West
to
Virginia.
see. I would love to see a dude rolling around in this T-shirt. That would be hilarious, especially a
Oh,
dude as
Chris
dudish
would.
as you.
Oh, Chris would.
Act
Full
like I won't.
beard and
Act like
yeah.
I won't. I will. I got
That's
an
right.
Alabama T-shirt on tonight. Best-selling band.
I think
country
you could
sing-
pull off a bearded woman in a carnival.
Oh yeah,
You damn right.
Oh,
I got
Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama the
I got
band.
the titties for it.
So, what's your thoughts on that, Lindsay?
Send me this T-shirt, Lindsay.
What do you see the trajectory of the U.S.?
Did you guys see what Chris just did to me?
No,
Wavelength.
dear God, it's a
I
family
was-
show,
I
Chris.
was promoting
That's a
Alabama.
family
You
show,
were
Chris.
promoting your own man titties. Oh,
I don't have titties. I have a gut.
you know
but
what?
don't
I gotta
have
go. Oh, my kids are calling. Oh, someone needs their butt wipe.
titties. I got kids too. You can't tell me that lie.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can you repeat the question? I was
The
distracted.
pendulum. How's the pendulum?
No, it's a
Oh, yes.
wavelength. It's a
What's your
wavelength.
prediction about the future of America?
Wavelength.
All right, I want to go ahead and just say for the record that it is a pendulum, Chris. It's a pendulum.
Nope. I'm not going with it.
And-
But go ahead.
It's a pendulum that's in a wavelength. How about that? It's a ball rolling up and
I
down
like
through
that.
the yeah. I actually truly believe that the pendulum is going to swing so far to the left that everyone is eventually going to get pissed off at these people and come over to our side. Because think about the last 5 years. 2020. Let's start with me for an example. I'm minding my own business. Kids go to public school. I don't care. Wait a minute. You're going to shut down my business? Hold on. I'm awake.
Hold on, real quick. I just want to interrupt you real quick. Right now, you don't think we've seen the worst of it.
That's where I'm at.
No.
Really?
Nope. No.
Wow. Sheesh.
Hello. We've
I
still
agree.
got.
All right. Keep going.
We still have
listening.
to get like pedophiles openly having relationships with children. Like we still have to get there because that's where they're going, right? We still have to have bestiality being completely normal. We still have to have like full-term abortions be like available in every state. Like that's what we're talking. We have to. It's going to get worse.
Like a 5-year money-back guarantee on a kid.
Or like a murr.
Totally. Oh, so sad.
It is
So sad.
It
But
is.
yeah, like sex trafficking not really private anymore. Like kids publicly for sale.
Like straight,
Right?
Wow.
Like
Over,
straight P. Diddy.
overstock.com doesn't have to hide it as like a couch. It's just a kitten. Because eventually you think about it, 5 years ago, we were not at a point where men could use women's restrooms.
Yeah.
Men can birth children. Men can breastfeed. And then men are posting pictures, putting a baby sucking on their nipple. You're telling me
Yeah.
that's not pedophilia? That's
Yeah,
pedophilia
that's
under the guise of
gross.
inclusivity. So if we can get that far, and now we've got these people calling themselves MAPs, minor attracted persons. Okay, well, that's going to catch on. And now if you listen, they're already saying kids can transition because they're able to consent to that. Their brain is able to compute. I was born the wrong gender. I know what gender I am, even at 3 years old. So if kids can have the brain capacity to do that, you're telling me that pedophiles aren't going to have the wisdom to say, well, if they're old enough to consent to that, then they're old enough to consent to a relationship as well, right? Because it's both sexual decisions. And so they're already grooming for that. So we know that that's in the future. So, but like shutting my business down, that was my line. Forced vaccines, that was someone else's line. Porn in kids' school books, that's someone else's line. Drag queen story hour, that's someone else's line, right? They have pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed that all of these people, starting in probably about 2020, have realized, okay, I'm not okay with that. That's where I draw the line. Now I'm over here. I'm over here with you guys. That was too far. There's like a whole gays against groomers movement where gays are like, dude, no. They're literally turning away from like the rainbow and the flag and pride and everything because of pushing too far. So you can just imagine the more that they push, all we have to do is let them push, and people are going to be like, okay, now I'm done. And they're just going to keep bringing warriors to our side. The only people that are going to survive on their side are literal demons, like pedophiles. I'm going to go with pedophiles and Hillary Clinton. Those are the only ones that are going to last over there.
Joe, that's you got me fired up on that one. You're about right. That's who's going to last.
What do you think that looks like? Does that look like a political movement in the future? Does that look like
it can't be
something very
Dude,
similar
it cannot be a political movement.
some degree of a civil war? I mean, where does that go? Where do you think?
I think that the government is too afraid to push any agenda that would lead us up to take arms, because they don't, the other side doesn't have arms. They have dildos and, pride flags.
Well, they got two.
Barely.
They're weak.
The nunchucks.
They're like this. Hey.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. I actually think it'll look more like a revival. I think it'll look more like people turning back to Jesus. I think it'll look more like
that would be awesome.
People understanding that Christianity doesn't mean like being weak and passive.
Yeah.
You can be a Christian. Jesus turned over tables when it was enough to piss him off, that was against his word, against God's word. And we're talking people selling holy sacraments that were supposed to remain in the church, in the temple, people selling those for profit outside of the temple. That pissed Jesus off because they were taking advantage of holy sacraments. That pissed him off enough to turn over the whole table in rage. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to have sex with little kids. You're telling me I can't get mad about that and turn over tables? I'm going to get mad and turn over tables and still be a Christian.
And I
we
think
should be.
That was something
I like that.
Thinking earlier too. It's good for especially women to see you can be strong, you can be outspoken, you can do all these things and still be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say that the less willing you are to speak up against evils, the less Christ-like you are, because it actually
100%.
says in the Bible, I have a verse written down somewhere. Basically, the subcontext is if you see something evil and you do nothing, according to the Bible, you are just as guilty of the sin being committed that you do not speak up against. So if you saw someone get murdered and you kept quiet, you're basically a murderer in Jesus' eyes. So to me, I'm like, God and the Bible calls you to speak up, and it can be in kindness, sure, if kindness is appreciated. But if it's boldness and frankness and righteous anger that's called for, then you have every right to have righteous anger against people who are after children. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be kind and sweet to pedophiles. No. There's nowhere that I believe Jesus is like, good job, Lindsey, you spoke in love to people that want to have sex with kids. Good job, you're the bigger Christian. No, I'm gonna go at them with my full force.
Well, I mean, all you got to do is look at the Bible, and anybody that is anybody in the Bible that is memorable in the Bible was not weak. They were not passive. I don't care if you're talking about Abraham, Isaac, Moses, David, Joshua. I don't care who you talk about. They were not weak people. Mm-hmm. And I do think, I think you're right. I think a lot of Christians, especially in the last probably 20, 30 years, have taken this passivity of and confused that with love or charity. Now, again, I think what it comes down to, even talking about being, judge not that you be not judged, right? What we're talking about is we don't have the right to judge people or to hate people or anything else, but we should absolutely be outspoken and talk about, something that is sinful, something that is a lifestyle, something that those things like, I have nothing against gay people or trans or any
Chris is like,
of, you can take anybody and put them in any box. I have nothing against them, but if they're doing something that I find that I don't believe that is a sin, I'm not going to affirm that in any way.
right. Yeah.
Well, you think about it in the context of having kids. You love those kids more than anything. So when they're doing something wrong, you're going to tell them. And
That's
you're not
right.
always going to tell them in the most kind, sweet way either. You're going to
Yep.
freaking lay down the law and tell them, hey, this is wrong. I
Yep.
mean, it's the same thing.
You can accept people, but you don't have to accept or whatever else, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and especially if that sin is hurting other people, then you can't just sit by and let people hurt
And
others.
innocent people.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and never mind that there is a difference. I think there's a sort of a line that we have to draw or at least make note of between legal actions versus a biblical or spiritual action when it comes to, first of all, if you're a pedophile or whatever else, again, I'm all for the death penalty until God works on me and changes my mind on that. But again, you talk that over with God, and God will forgive you. But as far as the law goes and how these things, we're supposed to prosecute those things. And I see the left. What's crazy to me is you see the left hijacking Christianity now, and using some of these supposed concepts against us. And unfortunately, there's people silly enough to drop their cup on camera. Don't ever do that
I
again
didn't
on my
spill
podcast.
anything, so quick reactions.
There's people silly enough to fall for that nonsense. It's like, oh God, and this goes back to kind of where our conversation started. Was you got to figure out what's right or wrong or acceptable in your own head, and make sure that you feel confident in those, and then be ready to stand up for those values. And just have them just have that debate with yourself at some point. What's right, what's wrong, and hopefully we're all evolving. Hopefully evolving in the right direction, or growing in the right direction. And it happens with all of us, right?
Yep. That's right.
Lindsay, let me ask you a question, because I thought about some things now.
Oh, here we go.
We're on the wavelength.
Is it okay that I'm making fun of Chris along with everybody else?
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course, yeah.
So you said that you didn't believe in the death penalty for pedophiles because you don't have the mindset. God has the mindset to who needs to go and who doesn't. Correct?
Okay. Yep.
Would you be agreeable to pedophiles being tortured?
Castrated.
That was,
Yes.
I thought he was gonna say castrated too.
Tortured. Because
Tortured.
no, because this is what I'm saying is because when you're saying castrated, there's one category. You're putting one on males. You can't do that. You can't do that. It has to be non-binary. You have to be two.
I think you sewed it shut or something.
No, I've been thinking a long time on this one because I like where you were going at. Because I'm a Christian dude, and I like what you're saying. Like, only God has the choice of who to kill and all that, life or death. But I'm saying that pedophile tortured that child.
Well, that's against the Constitution.
Obviously. But are you against?
He doesn't care what
The Constitution aside, okay?
They didn't follow the Constitution. Would you be against them being tortured? Because that's essentially what they did to these innocent beings. I mean, why can't we? Why? I don't know.
I do think some of that's built into prison time for those people. Usually.
Right.
I mean, I get that, but some of them might like it. But I think it needs to be more of a torture instead of just be like, oh yeah, this is
how we do justice out here in West Virginia.
I don't know. That's kind of where I'm
Chris
at.
wants to waterboard him.
Oh my gosh.
That's where
Of
I'm
all
at.
the things, yeah.
I just want
Let her answer.
Okay, I just want them to feel what they put on these children. Do you feel that instead of death, do you feel that they should have the same mental?
All right. This is a two-part answer.
I'm here all night.
One, Do I feel like we should torture them? Yes, absolutely. I will be the first in line to volunteer.
Thank God.
Okay, but do I
But
think we actually can and should? No. Like, because just like with everything, it's like, well, why do you believe what you believe? And the Bible does say an eye for an eye, but it does say that in the Old Testament where it also tells men not to shave their faces, right? So
That's
I
why
don't know.
I have
How
a beard.
seriously can we take it? I don't think it's justifiable. I do think it's justifiable, but I don't think it's legally justifiable. Like, who gets to do it? That person's going to enjoy themselves. Is it because they're enjoying themselves, or is it because this person deserves this kind of punishment? And who gets to decide what kind of punishment they deserve? And are we paying this person to go torture somebody? So now it's like costing us tax dollars to pay a torturer. I think that, like, do I want to do it? Yes. Do I think they
I
deserve
didn't
it?
ask you if you
Yes.
personally.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think
No,
if
I
we
think
found
that-
out who
I
the
think- I
parent
think-
was.
Yeah. No, I think my emotions say, yes, torture him, torture that guy or girl or whatever, torture him. But do I think that that should be part of our legal system? No.
Vice president.
Well, let me ask you this, Lindsay. It's I'm gonna challenge you a little bit and kind of see where your head's at on this.
she's like, oh God, what
and
now?
that is, you're
This was
against
supposed to be a leisurely interview about my
I
fight
know.
against
I
torture.
skimmed the top, and now Gary's going a little bit deeper.
Well, no, this
Remember,
is
Gary has already disagreed with me once, so he's on thin ice.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Welcome.
she's about to cancel me. So on the
Call Elon.
Yes.
the death penalty part of that. With that being said, I hear a lot of some of the same reasoning used against self-defense. So
Okay.
That's a good
when
question.
if you're going to use lethal force, where do you find
Because
in
essentially
your
you could be
morality,
possibly taking a line,
Correct.
a life.
Correct.
in your morality, and just being able to I don't know, kind of justify the dichotomy of those ideas? How do you feel about that?
Well, the truth, even legally, I believe, is that when you use lethal force, it's under imminent danger.
Sure.
So it is a situation where this person will take my life unless I take theirs.
Yeah.
Right. And so
right.
I think that that's justifiable. I think that it's completely justifiable, and or my kids. Right. So if my kids are in imminent danger, I'm permitted to protect them at all costs
100%.
necessary. Now, and then now we're in like that gray area where, okay, the perp is in the house. He came after my kids. I shot him. He's down. That's not true, right? Because you shoot to kill. So 2 to the chest, 3 to the chest, 2 to the head, 2, 1, whatever.
All
I
of
like
them to the
I like
chest,
to make
wherever.
sure. I like to make sure the job gets done.
They're getting the whole mag.
But if he manages to remain alive, may I pull his nails off one by one with my husband's construction pliers? Yes. Could I be justified in court for doing so? No. So it's like, at what point are you past, like, I had to defend myself? I think most humans would agree. You don't ever want to take a life. I would never want that feeling. Now, that's not the truth for murderers, obviously. They enjoy
Sure.
it. But normal law-abiding citizens would say, if it were my life against yours, that is justifiable. But anything beyond that is just inhumane.
So you
Even
feel
as-
in your Christian beliefs, if it's justifiable under the law, then it's justifiable in those
So
beliefs.
you can reconcile those two things.
I can reconcile those two things. But man, you guys, have you read like Numbers and Deuteronomy? It says that if your child worships a false idol, you must take that child into the community, and the community will beat him to death with a stone. I'm like,
I've lost three
Stones.
children that way.
Stones. Stones.
No,
Chris
plural.
would be done at 5.
Plural stones.
I know that there's
Yeah.
a lot of women and a lot of Christians in general that have a hard time kind of seeing those differences, and also, taking the idea of "thou shalt not kill," which is, if you get into the Hebrew and Aramaic translations of that, it's not exactly kill; it's specifically to murder. But again, I know there's a lot of people out there, and I think a lot of women, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of women are afraid to carry a gun, because I think they're more attuned to the fact that, hey, I may have to take somebody's life. I think a lot of guys carry a gun like, it makes you feel macho. and if it ever came down to it, some of them haven't really played out. Hey, am I really willing to take a life?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny. We were just doing some force on force training last year, and I was, you know, basically holding a UTM gun and was on a door as some of my trainees came in, and the guy came in with a gun. I purposely presented a fair shoot, right? Like, hey, you're going to shoot me. And he came in and just stood there and was stunned and like just froze. I'm like, John, what are you doing? He's like, I've never actually shot at a person before, you know, and you know, thank God. And that's the thing that a lot of people out there don't know. This is a guy that's taken multiple courses, does a lot of shooting. You know, there's
Never
people,
pointed a
there's
gun at a
people in
person
this
before.
chat right now that were at that course.
Yeah.
So, you know, is like, hey, that's why training like what you took and force on force training and advanced firearms and tactics training is so important for men and women, because, you know, it's one thing to carry a gun. It's another thing to feel confident and competent with that firearm. It's a whole nother ball of wax to be able to use it under stress and then also make good decisions, or even
Point it at somebody.
make a decision that you've
Yeah.
never had to make before. And I
Yep.
think that
Yep.
is great that you're training out there. And I think, you know, you said you hadn't done a lot of training before. As you get more into this, well, let me ask you this: before you started doing more training, did you have reservations about going to train?
No, not really. No.
Okay,
No, I was really excited about it.
good. Okay,
My only concern would be like, you know, pride, like using it in the wrong context or form or preliminarily, and then being embarrassed about my actions. But I even did do something wrong in the carjacking. The guy was walking by and I just immediately like went off on him, and he's like, what if it was literally just a guy walking by your car? You wouldn't really start harassing me, would you? I was like, all right, that was aggressive. You're right, aggressive. So, but no, even then it would be worth the risk of like learning the you know, the proper actions and the proper course of action. So no, I had no reservation. I was really excited about it, and I'm already excited to go back actually.
well, that's good. Yeah, you know, I think, I you know, you're pretty alpha for a chick, right? So,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of women out there that are very nervous about going to training, and you know, first of all, I'll say it. I want you to speak to this too, and Summer can as well. Like, don't be. You're going to get
Right.
there. Number one, what I always find that's almost always the truth is that women are afraid they're going to go there and they're going to be the worst one. They're going to make the most mistakes.
never are.
They're going to be, you know, they're very self-conscious.
There's always
Folks,
a dude there.
Number one,
Yeah.
if any training company's worth their salt, they're going to make it fun. Number two, I love when women come to a mixed course because they can actually see that they're better than a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
And it's just a fact. You don't get to see that if it's like, I know a lot of women like, oh, I only want to go to an all women's course. Go to the mixed courses, folks.
Yeah.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you right now.
You're going to be better than
Yep.
2 or 3 or 4 or 5 dudes.
And then once you go
100%.
there once, the ice is broken. You're
Yep.
going to have a good time, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's probably going to be a passion that you're going to want to pursue.
Well, I think you guys do a great job of, you end up breaking the ice in the first
do.
like hour, you know, and then the women are like, oh, this is so fun. I'm so
Right.
glad I ended up coming. So
Yeah.
The thing
I
is
would
that
say, oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Lindsay. Go ahead. You
I would
first.
say go with like a female friend, because one of the girls that was there, her husband was a police officer, but she had not had any prior training. And in the very beginning, she was so passive and she was so quiet, and you could tell she was intimidated. But I am all about girl power and encouragement.
right.
And every time she did something amazing, I was like the annoying person. I would stand up and be like, yeah, get a bitch, like that. And she got so empowered by
she
like,
fed off
ooh,
that power.
I want to
Yeah.
be aggressive. I want to take this guy down. Like, I want to get cheered for. And by the end of the second day, dude, she was throwing Stanley Cups at the carjackers and she was shooting people. And I was like, it's like awesome.
Stanley Cups are good for something.
Yeah. So even Philip, the CEO of Waft, was like, does anyone recognize that blonde chick? Because she does not look like the same person that walked in here earlier and was like, back off, back off. So she just like having another woman there to encourage you it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Swear I'm going to count to 3.
Well, no,
3.
I'm gonna
no,
throw my flashlight at you.
I say
One and a half.
when I finally went to Handgun 1, there's a girl literally beside me, and then her husband was on the other side. And they were shooting. And then Brooke was our person for the us 4 or whatever. He was like, I don't have anything to say to you. And he kept talking to her husband. And she was shooting like, I don't know, 3 or 4 inch groups at like 7
that's
yards. I
awesome.
mean, just pounding them. And he was talking to him with his red dot sight. And then coming back to her, she just iron sights every time. And then he looked over and said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, babe. And she was like, oh, you should just shoot more like me. I was like, oh shit. They're going to sleep in separate beds tonight.
That's weird.
It was amazing.
Oh, that's
what I'm saying.
awesome.
Girls, I don't know what they do. They can like shrink their brains down and make like this. I don't know what they do, but they can just laser focus on these certain tasks.
Women naturally have better hand-eye coordination.
I say they can just laser focus on these tasks, and she was out shooting the shit out of him. He was over there adjusting his red dot, trying to get it lasered in. I was just standing there. I was iron sights too, so I was like, yeah, "You're on your own, bro." And I was just trying to keep up with her, but it was awesome.
We had a really great trainer on the second day, and it was just her and I. And he had drawn this little black Sharpie dot on the target. And he was teaching us trigger control, right? Where you hit the wall and then you fire. Because every female I've ever met, including myself, the hesitation of like, when is the gun actually going to shoot? Like makes you pull up or whatever. Yeah. So he was training us on our trigger wall and breaking the wall. And he drew this little dot and he's like, ladies, the goal, is to get as close to that dot as you can. And, they were doing the beeping thing where they time your shot too, right? So you get to the wall and then how fast can you get that bullet in? Well, I had accidentally broken my wall and fired prematurely. And he looked at the time and he's like, well, that was fast, but just because you beat the buzzer. And then he's like, but where were you aiming? And I'm like, the dot. And he goes, the A or the C? And I'm like, no, dude, the dot. Like, where did it go? And he goes, I don't know where your bullet went. And I was like, what the heck? So we walk up to it and he was like, it's in the dot. It's so in the dot. We couldn't even see it. Because it was like, I'm like, no. It was an accident.
I'm just going to go home now. I'm done.
And he's like, no, it's not an accident because that's what I just trained you to do. And I'm like, that was so free. But
awesome.
we couldn't even, she was so happy for me. And anyway, it was a good story. That was I just wanted to brag. So that's all.
Good job. Good job.
Please.
No, that's awesome, Lindsey. I hope you continue to, pursue firearms training. I think it would be great. And I think you'll be a great example for other women to get them to go that direction too.
I want to go.
I really want to see more women because I think I want to see more women. I want to see more. I want to see more women in firearms. They do such a great job, and they're more capable than I think they believe they are. And not only that, I think they need it more than anybody else. That firearm is a great equalizer. And I don't care what any woke person says. The average guy is obviously much stronger, much more aggressive usually than a woman. And then of course they have their kids and dad and the husband's not always home. And that's the thing with our kids. Like we have a 9-year-old son up there, or a 10-year-old son and a 14-year-old son up there. We want them to be able to protect themselves if we're not around. And I think the same thing goes for women. And I think it's so important. And I think it'll be so empowering as well. I think that's huge.
I agree.
Well, Lindsey, I told you I'd get you off here in about an hour and a half. I know you got a whole nother show. You got your docket filled.
A Bible study to host.
Oh,
that's awesome.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
So leave us with some parting words. Number one, make sure any other links or anything else, other information, but leave some parting words for some women out there, for men, for Americans, whatever you got.
Speak up no matter what it costs you. Always speak the truth. Do not hold back, and don't be afraid of what you're going to lose. If you speak the truth, you will be blessed for it. Jeff Johnson is awesome. The death penalty is wrong. And follow me on Instagram, the.patriot.barbie.
All right. Well, listen, Lindsey, we really appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to have you on again sometime. And we just appreciate what you're doing. I think it is such a great example to all Americans out there. And folks, make sure you like, subscribe, go follow Lindsey on all her stuff. Definitely go check her out on Instagram. Make sure you join our newsletter down below. Go check out our upcoming calendar for all our upcoming training. And come train with us. You'll be glad you did.
Love it.
But until next time, folks, stay armed, stay ready, and we'll talk to you soon.